This is Lakan. When he wasn't even 10, his family saw him as a useless child, but that rejection accidentally shaped him into the Empire's most valuable weapon. This guy is considered a genius tactician, but even that wasn't even enough to win him his current title, the Grand Commandant Kan. For obvious reasons, but instead it was a result of multiple perfect accidents. People's twisted reaction to him, the psyche of his mind, and cogs spinning inside the palace are all aligned perfectly to essentially give Lakan a red carpet to power. I'm Lucy, a certified coach with formal degree in psychology and behavioral science with the sickest prosthetic legs ever made. I'm a Souls player, okay? I know good feet when I see one. And once again, we are digging into this character. If I quote the original John Wick movie, Lakan is a man of focus, commitment, and sheer will. But only when he wants to. And if you look at the anime, that only happens thrice. 1, when he gets to Fengxian, 2, when he rescues Maomao, and 3, when he decides to mentally screw Jinshi for existing near Maomao. Priorities. But he is competent, and his competence was born from his fight against the disorder. In episodes 23 and 24, we get a pretty thorough view of what makes Lakan, well, Lakan. So let's start with the most obvious thing first. Lakan has a unique condition. Here's how the anime explains it.
そういえば
あの男は人の顔がわからないんです。目や口の形はわかるのに、それをまとめて認識できず、皆同じような顔に見えるそうです。
In real life, this condition is called prosopagnosia. And what Maomao recounts is basically how it works. It's a neurological condition where someone has difficulty recognizing faces. To add to Maomao's explanation though, this doesn't mean that these people with prosopagnosia are dumb. Other parts of vision and intelligence are generally unaffected. They can still work normally. The face is the problem. And also, real people with face blindness, they usually learn other ways to recognize people. They start using hairstyle, voice, body shape, posture, context, anything that can help them recognize people. So Lakan's case is basically a fictional exaggeration of that. Lakan has an extremely severe version of face blindness. He can't even recognize his own parents. But then he started to compensate for it. Probably because of his obsession with Go and Shogi, he starts seeing other people's faces as ghost stones and shogi pieces. But it doesn't stop there for Lakan, because he also starts attaching roles to them. Like in chess, this person is a rook, that person is just a go piece. Oh god, he's a little bend in the story. This becomes Lakan's trademark, if you will. He stopped reading faces and started reading the board. Unfortunately, the board is real life, and the pieces are real people. Now, here's the thing. Regardless of how the series portrays it, having face blindness sucks. Even Lakan is troubled by it. People with face blindness have countermeasures, of course, but it's still not the same as actually being able to see people's angry expressions when they're about to punch your face, which is kind of important, I think. Is it even a surprise that Lakan can't read the room? I don't think so. But also, Lakan is in a perfect position. No, not even perfect. A heavenly condition where it works in his favor. People like Lakan are what I like to call talent maxers. Not to be confused with Mappa slave maxing their animators. I ain't forgetting that. The point is, people like Lakan have certain traits that, on their own, are just bad traits. But because of the context around them, those traits become their superpower. These traits are called intensifiers in psychology. For example, in Lakan's case, face blindness itself, it doesn't create genius from nothing. It intensifies how his genius develops. On its own, it's just negative. With his face blindness, you can't see even when someone wants to puke in your face. Everyone is saying, you can't see me to you, and they're right. But it's even worse because you can still see the gesture. But Lakan is a lucky one, because everything about Lakan is intensely in favor of his intensifier. The La family is known for their intelligence, so even without face blindness, Lakan's probably still smart. But without the La family, he probably never gets protected long enough to become useful. Because he can't even recognize his own parents' faces, he was dismissed as an heir. But without that, he may never have spent so much time sharpening his board game strategies. Because he is still part of the La clan, he gets a chance to use all that board knowledge in the court and the military. A literal perfect accident. Again and again and again. And later, he becomes so skillful, so renowned, so respected, that everyone just had to suck it up. Now, I want you to consider two things. One, Lakan is not the only talent maxer in the Apothecary Diaries. Ha! Far from it. The Apothecary Diaries is full of talent maxers. But also, two, consider the setting of the Apothecary Diaries. Competence is still not enough. Not even close to explain how this man can become Great Commandant Kan. Because when you look at the setting, the Apothecary Diaries is also about politics, about factions, about which side you hang out with. Competence is secondary at best. But looking at Lakan's case, it's almost as if someone is understanding enough to overlook all of this. As if they know that Lakan will produce the most clutch win ever for the Lee Empire. Like they're keeping a trump card. Maybe that comes from the fact that the Apothecary Diaries isn't just full of talent maxers, it is ruled by one. The Emperor is a talent maxer. The interesting part of the Apothecary Diaries characters is that even when we exclude the protagonist, Maomao, some of them feel far beyond the setting's time. It's actually suspicious enough that people started asking questions about it since 2018. In a 2018 activity report in Shosetsu Kaninaro, Nasuhyuga, the author herself, even had to clarify. I'm using Chrome's native translation tool here. She basically said, if you're asking why there are overpowered characters, I'm writing this with the understanding that there are people like Leonardo da Vinci in this world. I swear to God, it's so hard to get this reference, and you can help me by clicking the subscribe. Let's continue. This really explains why the Apothecary Diary sometimes feels ancient, but sometimes there are characters that push the needle of the Apothecary Diary setting noticeably earlier than real-life history. They're the Vincis, so to speak, and one of them is the Emperor. From what we know so far, it's pretty clear that this emperor is a Chad. He's the emperor who's slowly abolishing slavery, he also stopped unification, he also lets his concubines leave the palace instead of making them die there, he has impeccable taste in women, and even though court politics keeps screaming factions, bloodline, family status, the emperor keeps making room for proven individual talents. And honestly, to a worrying degree, it's as if they don't have a trustworthy minister or something. Minister? What minister? I have this flat goblin right here! And when Luomen, a man with a documented criminal record, is brought back to the inner court, the emperor doesn't let him leave. Meanwhile, Jinshi, for the longest time, is basically like, Luomen. But we have Luomen at home. So on the surface, it seems magical that someone like Lakan can become Great Commandant Kan, but psychologically and socially, it actually makes perfect sense. Because in the current Emperor era, Lakan's basically a Bitcoin. From a traditional standpoint, he is still the head of the Law clan. Good luck denying that. But also from the Emperor's standpoint, Lakan is not just a noble. He is a genius from a family of geniuses, and more, he can recognize genius in other people. So promoting Lakan is one of the first things the Emperor did when he took the throne. These two talent maxers enable each other. And honestly, that's the thing about talent maxers. It sounds cool and all, talent maxing, intensifiers. But the ugly part is this. They really need the right context to work. You put them in the wrong position, and you will see them break fast. And of course, the Apothecary Diaries has an example of that. And woo! Look at that! It's Lakan's first love. Yeah, who would have thought? But more importantly, aside from being Lakan's love and the protagonist's biological mother, Fengxian also serves as what-if scenario of Lakan. What if Lakan wasn't so lucky? So, Fengxian was Lakan's love. She was a courtesan in the Frederick's house. One night, Lakan and his colleagues went there and Lakan played Go against one of the courtesans. And then, well, Lakan lost. An official strategist lost to a courtesan. And it created one of the most memorable stories in the Apothecary Diaries.
人とはこういう顔をしているのか。
From the beginning, you can see how different Fengxian is. She didn't even try to lose to Lakan. I think that's the most reasonable move would be to pretend to lose. Let them boys enjoy the win, stroke their pride a bit, But she just didn't care. After meeting her more, he realizes that she's a prideful person. And not just prideful for a courtesan, even for a regular person, she is prideful and crafty. Because behind Lakan's back, Fengxian is already scheming her exit plan. You see, apparently, some guys like being looked down on. Who would have thought? So Fengxian's stock kept rising, and there was a real possibility that someone would buy her out. But my interpretation is that she didn't want those potential buyers. She wanted Lakan, so her plan was she would make herself pregnant with Lakan's child. That would drastically decrease her price, disgust the other potential buyers, and as a bonus, trap her beloved Lakan into buying her at a heavily discounted price. It's a gamble, a really dangerous gamble. And then she lost the gamble. Laomen was ousted from the palace, the Lakan was exposed, and Lakan was sent away to study abroad. And this is such an extreme example of how harsh an environment can be. Because as a result of Fengxian losing that gamble, this is what happened to her.
店の名を汚し、信用と価値が地に落ちた妓女がたどる末路をよたかのごとく客を取り
And the worst part is, it never even crossed everyone's minds that Fengxian had more to offer. The madam could have done anything. Put her in administration, let her strategize ways to make more profit, let her manage something, anything. But no, because of culture, because of an unnecessarily strict worldview, they just let her continue as she was. And then she lost her mind. Behind this sexy concept called Intensifier that tells everyone about their inner potential, they don't mean much when the game is rigged against your talent. And it's as real life. A really famous successful example of talent maxers, IRL, is Winston Churchill. Why? Because he was a paranoia-fueled patriot. On one side, he helped lead Britain through Hitler, but on the other side, he was also suspicious of Gandhi. Gandhi! With all due respect, I don't think Churchill would thrive in every era. Put him in the wrong time, and he's a problem. Put him in the exact crisis he was built for, and he became the most fitting leader for the job. And honestly, that also explains why the Apothecary Diaries has so many of these talent maxers. They're naturally interesting. They carry a paradox inside them. Sometimes they're drama incarnate. It's the same with Lakan. If Lakan wasn't a genius tactician, he might become a professional Go player. But what else? He clearly doesn't have the patience for admin tasks. He's too much of a weirdo to become a lobbyist. So without his current stature, he really sounds like another tragedy story in the making. And that brings us back to Fengxian. Fengxian is probably not a talent maxer because of life circumstances. But you know who is? Irene. Yeah, and I think you know why. She loves her job. But for a case that's closer to Fengxian, somewhat with rare ability but placed in the wrong context, Laomen is one. He's a genius physician, but a certain trait of his was considered negative for his career, so he ended up poor. But it's also really interesting now since he's now worked for the palace. It's really interesting to see how he will bloom. The point is, Intensifier doesn't always mean sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes, your intensifiers work against you. And honestly, I think a lot of people in real life are more like Lakan than we realize. Not as extreme as Lakan, but still. Maybe you are. Maybe you're thriving in school or work today because of your so-called negative traits. But also, maybe you're being pushed down by your environment just because you're a little different, because you invite envy, because people can't stand you. Hey, I'm just being honest here. And slowly you start forgetting your potential. Who knows? Maybe the best leaders we could have right now in the world are some randos working customer support because they need to eat. And isn't that sad? Some people push down others, call it that's how the world works, call it survival of the fittest, but they keep angrily asking why better things don't happen. But I also think instead of crying because of the world doesn't fit our ideal image of it, this part of the Apothecary Diaries begs us to ask something to ourselves. It's how we can place ourselves in the most fitting places.